Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, Spence, let's trip out.
Ethan, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I know, right?
It's o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. Yeah, obviously.
Documented Geek Day.
All right. And we're back. And we've got Chad from Bridge of the Gap. What's up, my guy?
What's up, guys? Stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here, man. So, Secret Combinations is the album. Let's start off. We all love a good origin story here. We're all comic book fans. So, where did the name Bridge of the Gap come from and what went into Secret Combinations?
Well, Bridge the Gap, I don't know, dude. I remember being on a beach at a family gathering type deal, like 15 years ago. No lie, maybe like 12, 15, somewhere in there, a long time ago. And I was on the beach watching my kids try to learn how to water ski, and I was talking to my sister's boyfriend at the time, and we were talking about music. And somewhere along the way, he's like, "Hey, what would you name a band if you ever got back into it?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And then all of a sudden, in my head, just came Bridge the Gap, and I was like, "Probably Bridge the Gap." And then I just never forgot that. So like when we started getting rolling again, and we realized, oh, this is a thing, and we need to actually name it. I'm like, Bridge the Gap, and everyone else was on board, and that was that. But Secret Combinations, that's like an old timey way of saying like secret conspiracies or conspiracies, like back in the day, like you can, not to tread into politics, but as an example, when Dwight Eisenhower gave his farewell address as president back in the day, he warned of a secret combination within the military industrial complex, meaning a conspiracy, right? So that's really all it is like secret combinations. What the hell is going on right now?
Yeah, that's awesome.
I have learned a thing today. That's actually
So, for me, what sets the tone for a record is the opening track. The title track, Secret Combinations, like it grabs your attention from
Yeah.
jump, like the opening riffs and stuff like that. But then track 2, Road Less Traveled, that one just straight up punches you in the face from the jump. So, like that, I love a good high energy, like, hey, fishing hook right in the lip, reel that motherfucker in. And that's exactly what you did. You caught a big old catfish with that song right there.
Thank you. That's cool.
Yeah, it's definitely the main sound I grew up on, and well,
and all I kept thinking, like I listened to the whole album like not even an hour ago, and all I kept thinking through the whole thing is they really remind me of Chaser. And then once it, how on Spotify you listen to an album, once it reaches the end, it's gonna recommend another song for you from another different band. Well, that different band just happened to be Chaser. So I was like, well, how about that?
Yeah. That's weird because Chaser is like most of the songs that are on that record are anywhere from, most of them are like they're about 3 to 5 years old. And then there's some of them, dude, that are literally like written 20 years ago that just never saw the light of day.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know Chaser was a band. I didn't even know anything about Chaser until about a year ago.
Right.
Now I'm well aware of Chaser, obviously, but
they just blew up.
You're the second person in a media podcast interview context that connected us to Chaser somehow. So that's interesting. I do find it interesting. I dig Chaser. They're solid.
Oh yes,
melodic hardcore band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're super tight and they're great dudes too.
Yeah.
We've had
Mike is special, unique, like just salt of the earth, really cool, down to earth cat.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
He's a great.
You kind of have to be if you're going to be a firefighter, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That takes a special breed as it is. But then just to carry that attitude over into the crazy punk rock lifestyle. Yeah. It's just saying, like, see, people think punks are bad people. No, we're the best people.
Parents,
we're just different. Yeah, right. We're all dads now, so it's like,
yep.
Sure.
We're not bad people. We're just somewhat irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, have you guys watched The Other F Word, that Jim Lindbergh documentary from back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Like getting slapped in the face with so many contradictions as a dad. You're raising your kids and don't say this, don't say that, do this, do that, and then like you think back to the 19-20-year-old version of yourself or whatever, and you're like anti-authority, F the world, F it all. You have to like balance those those ideas and still maintain a semblance of credibility as your kids get older, because eventually they go, wait a minute, either my dad is a complete like hypocrite asshole, or like he's down to earth and he's just doing the best he can, and I respect him. He might not always be right, but at least I can trust him. So walking that line, it can be hard sometimes, because there are things your kids, you don't want them to do that you've done before, and you've seen. It's like it's like looking at a map, and they're starting from the very beginning of the city or whatever, and you're like many turns down the road on the opposite end of the city, and you know exactly how to get there, where to turn left, where that little alley is to cut through, and all this, and you can tell them those things and you can get them there, but they want to walk it themselves. It's hard to do as a parent, letting them bump their head kind of.
Yeah,
incredibly difficult. It's also the only way any of us learn, though. I think it really
true.
Yeah,
true.
So it's the whole thing. Nobody ever learned anything from getting it right.
Yep. Very true.
All.
You guys, as Bridge the Gap, you were like originally, at least from something we were reading earlier, originally formed in the latter half of the 90s.
Yeah. So the guys in the band,
right?
We had a band where like, stereotypical 90s, inspired by like the pre-94 punk thing that was happening like on Epitaph and Fat, and then it really went bonkers with the Offspring and stuff. Like, we want to do that. So we started a band in the 90s, and finally kind of got our shit together as making decent music. 98, 99, and then we went till something like 04, 05. We were called Unfold, from Southern Utah, like about an hour north of Vegas. And we did that till like 05-ish, 04, 05. And so when I started demoing songs, because I had never stopped writing songs, I always kept writing and stuff. And I would just like, I don't know how to read music or write music. So like the way I learned how to play is also the way I kind of like catalog songs when I write them. Like even before phones and shit, like I would just remember how to play them. I remember what I like, the melody here, vocals, this, that, whatever. And I just kind of stockpile them over the years. And then, you get to your 40s, maybe you have a little more financial wiggle room than you did back in the day or whatever. And so I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I can actually afford to buy some of the gear and some of the stuff that I always wanted to back in the day. I'm going to start figuring out what I need to buy and learn how to record some of these demos at home and just have fun and just show them to my friends. And that's all really I was planning on doing. And then I would record them, figured it out, finally started recording them. And then I'd send them to my friends. And of course, mainly I want to show them to the dudes who were in the band. Hey, check this out, dude. Check this out, dude. You know, because of all the bullets we took together over the years and just good feedback. Everyone's starting kind of getting stoked and engaged. And that's where it kind of came back together as, holy shit, dude, these songs are really good. You should do something with these, Chad. I'm like, yeah, like what? Go freaking record them. And so that's how we ended up going and recording it. But even then, dude, like while we were recording it, it wasn't a band. It was me. Hey, me and my, you know, I would say my primary musical collaborators are our lead guitar player, Jeff, red-haired dude, like in our music videos and stuff. And he came out on a couple weekends because we all live hours and hours apart from each other. And he came out on a couple weekends and, you know, we co-wrote a couple things, polished a few deals. And during one of those sessions, he's like, dude, we got to record these like for real. You can afford it. I can afford it. Let's just go record them and have fun. And I'm like, yeah, well, where would we record them, you know? And he's like, where would you want to? And I just blurted out Bill Stevenson in the blasting room. And so eventually we just reached out to him. Jeff did actually reached out to him and he was down to work with us and the rest is history. So like, and then while we're at the studio, again, it was like basically Jeff going along on this thing with me. And right up to the point before we were going to go, I was just going to play drums on it because I know how I can play drums. But I was like, no, dude, I don't want to get there and have all this responsibility of playing everything and doing the vocals. Like we need our drummer Ryan from the old band. We need him. Yeah. So I hit him up and he was down. And but even then, guys, it wasn't a band. It was, hey, come record, you know, drums on this thing I'm doing. Totally down. So we learned some songs, showed up, and by the time we left the blasting room, we were like, all right, this might be something. And then when we started hearing the mixes back, we were like, holy shit, we got to do something with this. And that's kind of where it really became, all right, let's name this thing. Let's have a band. Let's get our bass player back. Let's do all this and find a record label and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome that like you ended up in the blasting room. I mean, there's so much history there.
Oh, dude. It's wild because when we, you know, we're communicating through phone calls and emails leading up to the start date. And I talked to Bill on the phone a couple times and he calls me. Literally, I'm like loading up my car to make the drive because I'm like a morning's drive from Fort Collins. And he's like, hey, so we're still on for you showing up at the blasting room tomorrow at 10 a.m., right? I'm like, yep, we'll be there. Because you can also, they have a little like lounge and bunk room where the band can stay at the studio. So you don't necessarily have to go like rent motels or whatever. He's like, okay, cool. I just want to make sure we'll have everything ready, blah, blah, blah. But I just want to let you know, dude, I'm under the weather. I'm like, oh, no problem. And this is like on the tail end of when everybody stopped really freaking out about COVID, you know, but it was still, you know, Bill's a very conscientious person. And he's like, because he had just got back off tour with Descendants overseas and he brought something back with him. Right. So he's like, I don't know, I'm going to see how I feel tomorrow, but you guys might have to like do the drums and stuff without me with, you know, my assistants and the engineers who are freaking badass humans. I didn't know that at the time. We're like, yeah, okay, cool. But still, when we showed up for the appointed time, walk up, it's kind of a unassuming building. It just looks like a little commercial building in a little sector. Yeah. And before we even open the door, dude, he walks out and he's got a mask and you can tell he's not well, but he's like, hey guys, I just wanted to officially greet you, make sure you saw me, you know, when you're showing up. And then he real quick just like walked us through the studio and like showed us around and pointed out to this is where this happened, you know, this is where that happened, whatever, and then bounced. And then, you know, that was like on a Friday morning and he was back with us by Sunday night and it was a 2-week track. So he was there for 99% of it. But the reason I even tell you that story is when first of all, you're being greeted by Bill, right? Legendary figure. You open the front door, dude. And if you watch the filmage doc on
Filmage,
Descendants, you know, there's that scene where it shows him walking down the hall and the camera's following him behind. That's the hall, but it's now changed where they've got like it's a very narrow hall and it's long, and they've got all kind of memorabilia and stuff up on the walls, and like it just kind of strikes you if you're into this kind of shit we're into, right? Like 90s era punk rock and hardcore.
Yeah.
It kind of strikes you, and from there, dude, like the novelty of it just never really wore off for us. We were like, the whole time we were there, we're like, what the fuck is happening right now, dude? This is wild. What are we doing? You know?
Yeah.
So Craig recently had the pleasure of meeting Bill
And Milo.
Yeah.
Cool.
and Milo, and I just got asked as a fan, like, yeah, for sure, I'm imagining. But like we had Milo on the show last year. Great human, great dude. But what was it like working with Bill? Like overall, like just, I'm sure it was fantastic. You know, you're working with that's Bill Stevenson. You're like,
Yeah. It's like this, dude. Like, you know, I've been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough, however you want to look at it. I look at it as fortunate enough, but to have met a lot of my heroes in life. All right. Just over the years, and not just musical heroes, but heroes in other, you know, realms. And a lot of the time, dude, they let you down in terms of like whatever ideal you have in your head of what they're going to be like. And, you know, that usually is formed by whatever reason they're your hero. Like maybe it's an author that you love and you read their books and then you meet them and they're total dicks or whatever. Musicians, athletes, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bill is one of those guys that not only met that ideal for me, I'll speak for myself, but like exceeded it. Like he's really hard to accurately explain, but he's like, seriously, I think the Filmage doc did a good job of scratching the surface on he's more than a drummer, you know, like relative to Descendants. I mean, like, you know, he's more than a drummer. He wrote songs. He like was the creative force of the band and all that. And I think a lot of the casual fans up until that didn't realize that, you know?
Yeah.
But dude, the amount of musical wisdom, first of all, talent, like on a whole other level of comprehension, dude. Like it's really hard to explain. He is a savant, period, when it comes to music. And then, you know, you add to that almost 50 years or whatever of music industry experience, not only being out there doing it as a musician and grinding and touring and recording, but being the guy doing the recording, being the guy writing songs, being the guy producing, being the guy mixing, and like all that stuff. It just adds up into this sum of just a insanely talented and wise, like musical dude. And then you throw into that, he's extremely like kind. He's very generous. He's very, very conscientious. And he's probably the most patient human I've ever met. Like patient in terms of like, imagine Chinese water torture, dude, and like it's dripping on your forehead or whatever. And eventually you're just going to go, enough, like stop this. And if you can extricate from yourself from the sitch, you will. But he's a guy who can just take it, dude. Take it. Yeah. Take it. He's just like patient, so patient. And that's, I guess, part of his nature, but also honed through years of, you know, if you guys have ever been in bands and recording, like, it doesn't matter what level you're doing the recording, it can be some aggravating shit, you know, takes over and over and over, whether it's drums, guitar, bass, vocals, whatever.
Right out of my mouth.
You know,
exactly what I was going to say. It's some aggravating shit.
and he's just like built a massive callus to that, to where not only it doesn't affect him, but he can still like think, behave, act clearly without that annoyance or that burnout or that, you know, your ears getting tired, like the different things that happen when you're in a studio. So anyway, I learned that the amount of stuff I learned from him is incalculable, especially like just in the vocal booth singing, like, because I had gone 15 years, dude, without like really singing. Because even the stuff I demoed in my house, it's just me hitting record on my keyboard and then singing into a microphone, not really taking it all that seriously, just kind of getting it tracked real quick. And then I have something there. So going 15 years without singing A, and then B, having to do it not only for Bill Stevenson, like a musical legend in my mind and heart, but then like, it's not good enough, dude. You realize that his standard of what he'll accept is many levels above like even what I could remember back in the day when I was doing this every day, all day long. That's all I did was music. And it was like taking you up, kind of like when you go to the Marine, like people, you hear them talk about going to like boot camp and how they get broken down so that the Marine Corps can build them back up, right? They have to like wear them down to a nub and then boom, they build them back up into something formidable. And that's really what it was like for me as a dude. Like I'm not, I'm not like Russ from Good Riddance who's doing this like on the reg, and like 25-year veteran of doing it on the reg. Like I'm a dude coming from like my house, dude, like, my basement with my kids and my wife and just, so, but he quickly like made me realize that, okay, you were woefully unprepared for what it was going to take to sing for Bill. And then worked me through it real quick, got me through the little kind of like learning curve. And then boom, we crushed it. So he's awesome, dude. All I can tell you is he's awesome.
Yeah. As I imagined he would be. He is. Like every interview I've ever seen with that man, he's like a giant teddy bear. Like, and that's what we all aspire to be, I think.
He did say
as people.
It was 100% true. For people that don't realize, he is literally the only single constant member of the Descendants.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Only one unbroken. Like start to now. He is the Descendants. Everybody else is just even with Milo obviously coming in as a close second only because he's the one that everybody associates, especially because of the logo. Yeah. But it is interesting when you think about it. No one gives the man the credit he deserves on that one.
Oh, dude. I think Filmage did a lot to kind of bring people up to speed on Bill, and just how important he is, not just to Descendants, but like to punk rock period. And then, like I was down in Vegas for a festival like a month and a half ago. And so we went to the Punk Rock Museum and stuff. And he and the Descendants, Black Flag, like they're very much recognized, obviously, and as they should be in the museum. And so it was really cool to see that, which I have a story about that, by the way. I'm not going to take necessarily take credit for this because God only knows what the impetus was, but like that same story I just told you about how he greeted us when we showed up, walked us through and then bounced. Well, when you first walked in the door, that long hall, right? It's a long hall. And then you get down to the actual studio rooms. And right as you walk in, there's an immediate left, and it's a long closet, a deep closet. I'll put it that way. It's like a deep closet that they used for storage at the time. They were storing all their different drum kits there. All right. So like when he first walked us in the door, he opens the door. He's like, quick, turns left, opens this door. And we're like, whoa. And there's all these drum kits. And he goes, you see that drum set in the top right corner? And it's this old gray beat up drum kit, And we're like, yeah, amongst many other drum kits. We're like, yeah. He goes, dude, that's the kit that I recorded Milo Goes to College on. I recorded whatever Black Flag it was, whatever. And we're just kind of struck by it because we're now like 2 minutes, not even, into being at the blasting room, being around Bill. And so I just said off the cuff, I'm like, dude, Fat Mike's building a museum in Vegas, a punk rock museum. You should put that in the museum. So yeah, that's a good idea. And then like off we went. Guess what? It's in the freaking museum. Maybe I don't deserve credit for it. He doesn't use it anymore. It's a drum set that long ago outlived its actual like sonic usefulness. It's beaten to what. Yeah. But it's in there now, which is rad to see.
Oh, yeah. We're gonna go ahead and cut to a quick break. Then when we come back, we'll get into some gear talk.
Sweet.
Big wheels, big muscle. It's Bigfoot, the original monster truck from Hot Wheels. Rev a Bigfoot for the Crunch Arena. That brutal bone-crunching power.
Completely crunched. No problem.
Fix crunch cars again and again.
Wow, crunch them again.
Power. Action. It's Hot Wheels Bigfoot Champions Crunch Arena. Bigfoot trucks also sold separately. Batteries not included.
Challenge your imagination to come alive and to battle with the creatures of Dungeons and Dragons. Grapple against the forces of evil as a Marvel Comics superhero. Hunt adventure and glory as Indiana Jones. The all-new role-playing games of TSR and Dungeons and Dragons. Unleash the power of your imagination.
Go for it. All right, Jason started to go off on something.
Shocking.
So go ahead and ask him what you were going to ask him, Jason.
Earlier in the first segment, you had mentioned the fact that you got, or you've been asked about the fact that you guys were the remnants of an original band formed in the 90s. And the number of members of your current, there's 4 guys in your current setup for the Gap. And all of them are from the original incarnation. So it is almost a straight up reformation of the original band with a couple of caveats.
Yeah.
Caveats are.
The caveats are, so our bass player now, Sean, was our manager, and like do everything guy. Like he managed us, he booked our tours, he went on tour with us. He recorded us because he was also a trained engineer that worked at stall number 2 in Redondo Beach, which is owned by Pennywise back in the day. They sold it. It's no longer theirs anymore. But so he was a 1/5 member of our band on Fold back in the day. And so it just kind of worked, you know, the way the universe is, dude, like the way things just kind of click and come together when we were like, no, let's make this a real band. You know, it's not just a Chad Jensen, you know, creative, you know, project. Let's make it a band. I said to Sean, because Sean came to the studio while we tracked it. And I was like, Sean, dude, you should play bass. Because that's how we originally met Sean. Is he was a bass player in another band from a couple towns over that we would play shows with every once in a while, or a couple times anyway, back in the day, like 97, 98-ish. And so that's how we originally met him. But he hadn't played bass, dude, literally since then. Because when he went to recording school, he stopped playing I mean, he was very much involved in music every day, but like he'd stop playing. And so, yeah, kind of crash course, bring him up to speed, teach him the songs, kind of like work him through, help him understand a few like technical things. And then boom, he was off and running. And he's so smart and hardworking and determined and talented and just like one of the most hyper competent human beings you'll ever know. You know, it was just a short matter of time before he got it. But so, yeah, so that's it. So I was the singer and the guitar player, and I wrote most of the songs. Jeff, he was our guitar player. He's in the band now on guitar lead. My musical collaborator, you know, we do write a lot of stuff together as well. And then Ryan, our drummer. And so, you know, I don't want to call it the same thing. I didn't want it to be Unfold, even though it's the same dudes playing the same kind of music, dude, written by the same dudes, like the whole thing. It was like, I don't know. I just wanted it to be something different.
You're different people now. You've had children. Makes a difference.
True.
Oh yeah, 100%. And how often do you hear bands changing their names at all?
I mean,
even if it's...
I was thinking, no, you don't. I don't say you really hear about bands changing the names so much as that you hear about bands deciding to form other bands with other people they've met.
Yeah.
You know, with super groups.
Sure.
Yeah.
The damn Yankees, for example.
Yeah. How did we know?
Sorry, I just had to think about dude from Styx and fucking dipshit Nugent.
The only bands I can think of, dude, that changed their names, like kind of from our scene, whatever, in the 90s and early 2000s or whatever, were both due to tort pressures. In other words, being sued for intellectual property stuff, which was that pop punk band that was called River Phoenix.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Got sued by that family, and so they changed it to Phoenix TX.
Love that band.
Jughead's Revenge got sued by the Acme Comics people for a long time, dude. They had to call themselves Jug's Revenge.
Yeah.
And now that I don't think they give a shit anymore. I don't know what changed, but like we saw them. We were down there for the festival. They were Jughead's Revenge.
If they're owned by too many different Jughead property, the Archie comics are owned by too many different label. Like it's not just like Warner Brothers has the TV rights. The comic company, I can't remember what it is. It's Archie Comics, has the rights to the character, but there are also so many iterations in between.
Yeah.
You couldn't be sued by any one of them without everybody having to be like, well, hey, fuck you.
Yeah.
We own the rights.
Right.
Yeah, they're in a weird legal soup of stupidity where they can do whatever the fuck they want now.
Good for them, because I'm a fan. I've always that one
Oh,
album,
great dude.
Just Joined, dude.
It's fucking
Great record.
God, I haven't thought about him in years.
Jughead is very good.
I thought you were going to say green. I thought you were going to say Green Jello, just for no other reason.
Oh, yeah.
Like Maynard's original thing from
LA.
Yeah.
Having to change it to Green Jelly because they got sued by Jello, which is fucking hilarious. Like that is just the dumbest damn lawsuit ever. Just, we are afraid that your weird wolf and pig video that you and somehow or another going to make old people not eat our lime Jello.
Yeah.
We will not be associated with this wolf.
Protect your IP. Definitely protect your IP at all times. But for fuck's sake, people eating lime Jello do not watch MTV. Shut up.
So, question that's actually been going through my head all day. What kind of guitar are you playing through right now?
Well, I'm kind of a little bit of a collector.
Obviously.
So
Okay.
I own a lot of
I see all the
guitars.
heads.
Yeah, so I own a lot of guitars. But what I'm playing through right now, my primary is, it's really weird, dude, because I've always been a Les Paul guy. As far as like when the rubber meets the road and it's time to like play, record, perform, whatever, give me a Les Paul. However, I've always been drawn to weird shaped body style guitars that I just like to have, you know, and collect, like Gibson RDs and Explorers and just weird shit. Okay. SGs, to me, I never really bonded with them. And even like at the studio when we were recording Secret Combinations, one guitar is a Les Paul, the other guitar is a SG, and I would play that SG because that's what they wanted me to play, because they have it all set up with Evertunes, because you don't realize till you don't have to do it how much time you actually waste in the studio tuning. And so they're straight Evertune, dude. Like I could probably count on both hands, barely, the number of times we had to stop recording for 2 weeks. All right, stop recording to tweak a tuning. That's how. So they're on point. They know what they're doing. But I played that SG a lot again, and I was like, yeah. And I owned an SG at the time, and I just never bonded with it. I got home from the studio and I actually sold my SG. But then, dude, somewhere along the way, I crossed paths with this 61 SG reissue, and it drew my attention because it had this. I've never seen a mahogany back of a mahogany neck look the way it looks. So I'm like, ooh, I want that. So I got it. All right. I sold a few things and I bought it. And it just immediately, as soon as I had it in my hands, if you're a player, you know that some guitars have a mojo that you bond with like immediately. And sometimes they don't. Like that they could be something you thought was going to be hella rad, dude. And like, but they end up being sterile and like dead, and they're not. And this SG, I got it in my hands, dude. And it was just like, what the hell is happening right now? This is so badass. So that's what my number one has been now for like 6 months, is this SG. That's SG.
Awesome.
I've always liked the SG just from the look of them.
Yeah.
Like the bigger pick guard, especially. It just completed the whole look of it. With or without the whammy bar. I'm not much of a lead player, so whammy bar doesn't make much of a difference.
This one has one of those old style tremolo arms, and thank God it was the kind where you can just like unscrew it and take it off.
Right.
I'm not a lead guy either, and I'm not a trem guy. Like any Fender I've ever had, or like I've tried a few PRSs, I just put blocks in there so that I got tuning stability, lose the arm, and just play chords.
For sure. Yeah, I'm the same way. Any guitar I've ever bought, I don't need that kind of setup. Just give me a straight bridge. I don't care if it's string through the body or string through the bridge, but just I don't need a tremolo or anything like that.
That's another reason why I've had a hard time ever bonding with Fender guitars. Basses, that's a different thing, but like guitars, it's not just the scale difference, you know, going from a 24 3/4 Gibson scale to a 25 1/2 Fender scale. It's not that, it's their bridges, dude. I hate them. And it's not even the tremolo aspect of it, because you can put a stop in and take the arm off and the tremolo function is gone. What I hate, dude, is like, because I chug a lot, you know, if you listen to Bridge the Gap, it's not like gent chugging. It's not like, you know, old school Deftones or Korn chugging. It's like, you know, picking, chugging, like where I spend a lot of time, dude, with this part of my hand touching the bridge. And it's got to be a traditional style stop bar for me, or else I won't play it. I might own some guitars.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So feel is a big deal. And even like some dudes, like I'm kind of a gear nerd, and I watch a lot of like stupid, superfluous, like rig rundowns on YouTube of bands that I couldn't care less about. And I watched one on Slipknot, and I've never really been a Slipknot fan, but I'm like, oh, what do these dudes play? I'll check their shit out. And the one guitar player, Mick, dude, he's sitting there, you know, playing through a Jackson that has Floyd Rose and stuff, but he never uses the trem arm. So the interviewer's like, how often do you use that trem? He's like, never. He's like, why do you play Floyd Roses then? He's like, just the way it feels on my palm when I chug, like it has. I've tried other things, and so like that's just what I got used to playing. So now I got to have that, or else it doesn't feel right. And that's how I feel about like traditional stop bars, like ABR ones and Nashville bridges, Tunematics.
For sure. Yeah, the Floyd Rose. I hate a Floyd Rose pickup.
I do too.
If you're not a guitar player, you'll never understand.
If you're a Gibson guy, then Floyd Rose is like against your religion. If you're a Gibson guy, that's, you know, not to say there haven't been iterations of Gibson guitars occasionally with like a Floyd Rose or a Kahler, but
very occasionally,
very rare,
like microscopic. But it's not even that of a Gibson guy. I just can't stand the stringing process of a Floyd Rose. Pain in my ass. It's more steps than I need.
Yeah, agreed. And it's kind of like that. Have you played an Evertune? Setting them up like that, it is a little bit daunting. But once you actually get it set up, they're pretty rad, dude. When I got back from the studio, they sold me on it. I'm like, I better have one so that like when I demo and stuff, it's easy. Just like I'm not tuning the whole time. So I bought a like a ESP LTD, you know, whatever their Les Paul knockoff is, and it had one.
The Eclipse.
Yeah, and it was a little weird getting it set up, but once I figured it out and I watched a few YouTube videos and shit, really handy, dude, because they stay in tune. It's wild. It's wild. Sure.
Yeah, I did like the Evertune setup, and I can imagine it being a pain in the ass to like initially set it up, but once it's there, but it's not a full Floyd Rose setup either. So that's the plus side of that.
Yeah.
It's literally just the top part of it, and I can handle all that. Like I like tinkering around, so that would be fun. That would be a therapeutic thing for me.
Yeah, and
like restringing a guitar was fun for me.
Totally, dude. I love that. There's something zen about like restringing, you know, oil up your board, whatever, like clean it up while, you know, it's
give it a nice little bath.
Yeah, you know, there's something zen about it. But one thing that's interesting about the Evertune bridges is like it took me about 5 minutes to get used to what it felt like on my palm when I was playing, and then I can play it with as much ease and comfort as like I was talking about the other bridges. So for whatever reason, it doesn't have that same feeling if you play like a, Strat type bridge or a Floyd Rose or Kayla or anything else. Like it's its own thing, but I would tell you it's probably closer to the way it feels on your palm. It's closer to like a stop bar, traditional kind of Gibson thing, the way it feels.
Yeah. I'll have to look into them for sure. I've never really it was a situation where I had to borrow somebody's guitar because I didn't have an extra set of strings or anything like that. And they were like, "Oh, this is tuned to that." And I was like, "All right, cool. Do you care if I use it?"
Yeah.
No, I can. And it, yeah, like you said, it didn't take me long to get comfortable with it. Like I'm pretty adaptable as it is. Yeah, it felt like a regular stop bar, but that was a long time ago. I haven't done anything like that in a while. I'm trying to get back into it. So one day I'll have enough guitars to justify getting some Evertunes and just swapping out when I need to.
I've been collecting, my whole life. So like most of my collection are Gibsons, but I have a few vintage Gretches. My actual second favorite guitar manufacturer, like vintage American, is Guild. I love old Guild electric solid
beautiful guitars. Beautiful guitars.
Not the new shit that gets made in Korea and China. I'm talking like 60s, 70s, 80s Guild that was made in the States. And I'm telling you, as good, if not better than Gibsons of the same period. Of that era. I love myself. I have a lot of Gibsons.
I have to agree with that. Oh yeah, it's awesome. Vintage guitars. There's something different about playing a guitar from that time period.
Mm-hmm.
Like it feels more. You feel more anchored, I guess. You can tell what went into it. Like somebody's hard labor went into that, because they didn't have the setups that we have now for building guitars.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes me smile every time I see like friends of mine, because I have a couple of buddies who build guitars, and they do it the old way. And I was just like, okay,
that's crazy.
That makes me smile. That makes me smile.
That's totally rad. I wouldn't even know where to get started on something like that. But I'm not good with my hands, so I'm like, my wife fixes most of the shit around our house. That's no lie, because I don't know how to do it. She does. She's raised on a ranch, so.
All right. No, I like tinkering around. It just depends what it is. The guitars, I'll mess around with them all day, but like as far as building them, not a clue.
Yeah.
Like no. It's too much. It's too much for my brain to comprehend.
Yeah.
I can handle the restringing and putting new tuning machines on or something like that, but
same.
Out of curiosity,
from scratch portion.
You said you do know how to play drums. Out of curiosity, do you still play at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm just curious. Do you does that same collective urge apply to drums at all, or is it
only on a very small scale? I can't go through a day without creation of some kind, and the only time I really play drums is when it comes time to demo an idea or something, and then I'll send it to our drummer. Because I can play drums, and most people who don't know anything about drums would see me play drums and go, "Oh, he's a good drummer." I'm not a good drummer. I'm a competent punk rock drummer. I can play pretty much anything in our realm, from the fast double time stuff to the mid tempo to some breakdown stuff. But I also never took any lessons. So I only recently did I learn anything about rudiments, double strokes, paradiddles, stuff like that, only because I was bored and wanted to learn about it. I was just straight get the job done guy, and figured it out, because over the years, from the time I was 14, the band always practiced at my house. I had a cool mom, so the drums would stay in the garage from my drummer or whatever, and I'd go out there and figured out how to play drums. And so now, I'm good enough to get by whatever, but I don't hold a candle. I don't hold a candle to our drummer, Ryan, for example. Ryan is as good a drummer and talented and professional on a level as far as his knowledge experience, ability, training, like can't even approach it, dude. Like if you would have heard Secret Combinations, the album, like the demos were of me playing the drums compared to what it is, I mean, to me, it wouldn't have come close. It would have been very straightforward and like Bobby Shea era Bad Religion-y, where it's just chug through the song, dude. I'm not really adding any nuance to this equation. I'm just like background more than I am like anything. That's more like what it was, kind of like placeholder drums, but not bad. They weren't bad drums. They're just like boring, straightforward, nothing really interesting happening drums.
Give you an idea of what it's supposed to.
Exactly.
So like writing a guitar line, you said like most of what you do is chugging and essentially palming it, for lack of a better way to put it, right? So
a lot of it, yeah.
So when you're writing a guitar line and when you have something in mind, are you thinking percussively while you do so? Because I mean, I would imagine just because of the style of playing that you kind of have to, wouldn't you?
Dude, oddly enough, no. I mean, drums, I don't even think about it until it comes time to like demo the song or something. And, you know, usually it's just like, I don't know, it's hard to explain because the song comes out of my brain. I don't really have to think about what the drums are going to be with very rare exceptions. The song comes out and then I sit down and I play the drums to it. Like, that's just all it is. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain. And it's honestly the very similar to when I give the song to Ryan. I go, Ryan, here's the song. We've been together so long as a creative tandem that same thing, dude. He just plays it, except he makes it interesting and rad and cool and adds nuance and flair and just makes it really cool. But I usually don't think that much about drums when I'm writing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same way. Like, I can't play drums at all, but like I always get like some idea of what I at least want the beat to sound like. That way I can, you know, say like to my whoever the drummer is, be like, okay, it's got to be in like 4/4, obviously, because it's punk rock.
Right.
Who does different time signatures punk rock?
Right.
But you know, so I got like this boom, 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 boom. Like, give me that on the bass or something like that, and then just go from there.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you got to do.
Well, there's a few things where, you know, we communicate by, we've been together so long that like there'll be a part where he'll be like, I don't know, dude, on this I'm thinking Sellers, and I'll go, yeah, no, Sellers, that sounds good. And most people would be like, what the hell are they talking about? But it's a specific beat that we have deified, that Sean Sellers, the drummer from Good Riddance, like mastered, which is the with one kick, you know, with one foot, and just little things like that, or like the Brooks, like we have a thing for the Brooks Wackerman, but most of it goes unspoken, really. Like, it's here's the song, he plays it, and then that's what it is, because he just knows. I don't know, we're just like this.
Yeah.
And you know, I can think of one suggestion I had at the studio. Hey, Ryan, do this. Everything else was like him just doing what he thought it should be. And it was on Road Less Traveled. When it comes out of the bridge and goes into the last chorus, there's a part where the drums go, and the kick does this 4-kick thing right before the last chorus opens. That was literally my only suggestion on the whole record. Everything else, he's just like doing his thing. Not to say that there weren't times where he'd be like, hey, what do you think of this or whatever? But as far as me asserting something, that was it, really.
Right on. That's awesome. So we're going to go ahead and cut to another break. And then when we get back, we'll do a little promo and then wrap her up.
Would you take a vacation from those good golden grams? No way.
Hey, where's mine?
You'd do anything for that sweet taste of honey. You'd go anywhere for that great graham cracker crunch. 'Cause golden grams. Look out! Good to go then. Golden grams, the golden part of your complete breakfast.
I'd like an Atari 2600 system, please, and everything that goes with it.
Everything? You sure you want everything?
I want everything.
Now you get a new low price, up to $30 in rebate offers, and a free pack.
Is that everything?
It's not everything. You can get nearly 300 different cartridges.
300?
That's nothing.
It's something.
But it's not everything. Soon there'll be a voice module, trackball, remote control joysticks, and a computer keyboard.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, but it's not everything.
It's not everything.
Soon there'll be educational games, too.
Is that everything?
That's everything. For now.
For now?
The Atari 2600.
Now get up to $30 in rebate offers plus a free Pac-Man.
All right. This has been a pretty killer conversation.
Yeah.
Got to talk gear for the first time in years. Thank you for that. That was awesome. Do you guys have any upcoming shows, or where can the people find your merch and stuff like that?
We're in the process of booking a little mini tour. You know, it's hard for us to tour because we have to really give it a lot of planning and forethought before we tour and stuff, because we all dads, jobs, careers, and we live, the closest in proximity is myself and Ryan, and we're about an hour's drive from each other. And you know, our guitar player literally lives in a different state. Our bass player lives like 4.5, 5 hours away. So when we plan stuff, we have to really like spend some time at it. And we're in the process of booking a little mini tour, like Western US, like Salt Lake, Denver, Phoenix, Vegas. Maybe we'll do some SoCal stuff that we're just booking ourselves, that we're just doing ourselves. But mainly what we're focusing on is writing for a new record that we're going to be doing in February.
Awesome.
So, and then merch, like you can get the LP, you can get the vinyl or CDs of Secret Combinations at, if you're in the States, go to bridgethegapmerch.com. If you're in Canada, go to peopleofpunkrockrecords.com. And then at bridgethegapmerch.com, there's hats and t-shirts and hoodies and stickers and all that other stuff. Otherwise, just follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and you'll stay up to date with all the shit we're doing.
All right.
Yeah, man. Like I said, Secret Combinations, great record. Go pick it up, people. I'm going to.
Thanks, man.
I'm going to add it to my collection. I have an ever-growing vinyl collection.
I do enjoy the research of the skate punk.
Yeah.
It's an adapted skate punk. It's not quite what I grew up with, but that's actually a good thing. And it's evolved. It's changed, which just goes to show that the entire time I think we said earlier on a break, so nobody saw this, there is no way to, like, punk cannot die because somebody will always kick it and resuscitate it. Like, it's possible. You can't fucking get rid of it.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming around.
Yeah. I mean, basically, our sound is 90s Epiphat with a little bit of a modern twist. Like, we basically play the kind of music that we want to hear. That's really all it is, man. Like, it's all of us. It's our favorite genre. And so when I write, like, that's really all I write, dude, is that kind of stuff is what comes out of me. Yeah. So that's what it is.
Yeah, it's fun to play. It's fun.
No, I feel that. It's a blast. But no, I understand that completely, because I want to put, like, I've been trying to get a band together since I moved to Charleston. Believe it or not, it's harder than it looks. But I keep saying, I just want to play something that I like.
Yeah.
Like, I'll play any genre of music. I'm an adaptable guitar player like that. But there's a certain style that I feel I need to get out, and that's what I want to play. And I'm very particular about it.
Yeah.
And they don't, like, a lot of people I talk to, they're like changing their minds constantly. I'm like, no, we're doing this.
Yeah.
And that's been the difficult portion of it, I think, is that I'm too picky.
Dude, I honestly haven't been in a situation like that since, like, the high school, early after high school days, just because, like, back then when everyone's in the band and you're kind of figuring out how to play, and you're kind of figuring out not how to play, what song, what kind of music you're going to be, what kind of, like, even if it's punk rock, what kind of punk rock is it, blah, blah, blah. But, like, I've been out of that for so long, dude, just because, you know, I just write songs, and I'm lucky enough, dude, that I have 3 really tight bros that are like, yeah, we want to play this music that you, because you know, it's like if I just send you a fully produced demo song, dude, with everything on it, do you want to be in this band? You're not going to come in and go, yeah, but I kind of want to turn it into like, you know, pop punk, or I want to turn it into like metal or something. You're like, oh, that's what it is. Yeah, I want to do that. So it's just, we've been doing it so long, dude. It's just like this, you know, it's like, it's just very natural for us, thankfully, man. So good luck on that. I know that can be aggravating.
Oh yeah, it's been a while since I've been in this position. So, yeah, but in the meantime, I got plenty of stuff to keep myself busy. So,
including a rad podcast.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I told you before, I'm just getting back into the swing of it. So, been doing this for going on 3 years now.
Going on 3 years. Yeah.
Well, don't stop, dude. That's one of the keys. That's one of the keys. Just don't stop doing it. And if you do it long enough, good things tend to happen.
Sure.
Exactly. And great things have happened already. It's just it's a never ending game of what's next. You know, like who are we gonna talk to?
Yeah. Dude, you got Milo. You can kill me now. You know, you got Milo.
I got Joe Queer to do a little promo for us whenever they played here in Charleston a couple months back.
Oh.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it. And like, I'm still kind of riding that high. I'll take it.
But yeah, man. Like the different punk, idols. I don't want to say idols, but like people that we all know. Every band that we ever had on a jacket or shirt that we rep, whatever the case may be. There's something about them. They're more down to earth than almost any other genre because they had to work hard to get the recognition. They either had to pour their asses off, or they had to hit the right time in the right place and just happen to get enough buzz to roll with. I mean, there was like you were referring earlier to the '90s Epitaph craze, right? Like there was a moment where suddenly all these bands that otherwise you might happen to catch them opening for a national act somewhere. Mm-hmm. There was a moment where on Epitaph they were just suddenly getting promoted. Find them in any skate shop, you could find them playing on any college radio. They were available, they were there, and it was open to anybody. That shit was really fucking cool. A short-lived period of time. So anybody doing it after that worked hard as hell to get it done.
Well, dude, even those bands that had a lot of success in the 90s that we all would, you know, say, oh, that was success. I'm not talking the Offsprings and the Green Days and the Rancids and the NoFXs and the Bad Religions. Or the Pennywises. Those are like the top dogs. Like, you know, the big festivals and stuff they'll book nowadays. Those are the bands they try and get to bring everyone through the door. Yeah. But all the other bands that are, you know, adjacent or in that same orbit, you know, they had their day in the sun. But then when that genre of music kind of dried up, which was about the time we said adios and quit, because like every show we would book, dude, and we go on tour and stuff, all the bands that were playing were like emo bands, screamo, stuff like that. We're like, man, we're not playing to the audiences that we really want to play. Like we can kind of see which way this is going. But the bands that had a lot more success than my band ever did, and that they kept going, dude, they had to grind through a lot of stuff. Even a lot of the bands that are on Fat, you know, Epitaph basically kicked off everybody who's not Pennywise or Bad Religion and Rancid. All those bands who decided to keep going, they had to land somewhere. And even a lot of the Fat bands, dude, like Strung Out and Lagwagon, and you know, those bands had to grind through some dark ass shit where their music was nowhere even close to popular. And it wasn't until like the festival things really started kind of becoming a live living thing, like circa 2012-ish, and then really exploding post Warped Tour. Dude, they had to be on the road 260 days a year if they wanted to like just pay their mortgage, you know. So respect to them.
Those the record labels got really confusing too when you stop and think about it. All right, so when I was growing up, and fucking Kennesaw, Georgia in the late 80s, early 90s, in order for me to discover a new band, generally speaking, what I would do, I would go to a show, there'd be an opener that happened to be a traveling band. They'd be traveling from anywhere, but I'd hear them and I'd be like, oh, that's great. Then I would go to find a tape somewhere at some record store and hope that, maybe I'd find it, maybe I wouldn't, depending on what level they were at. So for me to discover a band, this is also pre-internet, obviously. So it would be like I'd find this band and I would look at the record label. And the record label, I'd be like, shit, if I like them, I'll probably like somebody else on this record label. So next thing I know, I have an entire stack of Blurg and fucking Metal Edge and just like so many different record labels.
Yeah.
But that stopped being the case. Like when you were saying, like when Epitaph, it kind of got to the point where they were throwing everybody off that wasn't a major draw. Those bands did go somewhere. They went to like Victory Records and shit like that. Which Victory Records, cool, except for the downside being like you had hardcore, and hardcore is defined
straight edge.
Well, it could be hardcore on Victory Records could be fucking like Poison the Well. Or it could have been fucking Hate Breed. Yeah. And there's a big difference between those two, but it still was sold as hard, right? So it became very hard to find any new bands for a long period of time too.
Yeah.
But it's back to the point that it's kind of cool that there were any bands that were still running with it and dealing with that bullshit after getting that close to being fucking huge. I don't know. There was a brief shining moment in the 90s where everything was about to take off.
Oh, dude, I had the dream job when I was trying to. And by the way, whatever that interference is, just so you guys know, like I can barely understand anything that you're saying.
Named his dog.
Yeah, I would say mute if you're not talking, because then it goes away. That's just like one pointer. But
Dave, show the dog again. Let the people know what we're hearing.
There he goes. No, that's it. And then because when he talks, you don't hear it, right?
Yeah.
Because when he's actually talking, you don't hear it.
That's a happy dog.
But dude, I had the dream job when I was first, trying to make it. Like, and my definition in the late 90s and early 2000s of making it was, if I didn't have to hold a job and my bills were paid, that would be making it to me. And because I was with my music, that was all the dream. I wasn't like trying to be Van Halen or anything. It's like, hey, that was my idea of success. But while I was trying to make that a reality, I had a dream job, dude, which is I was a clerk. I was the guy at the counter at the local record store. So, what's that movie with High Fidelity? I was like Jack Black, dude, in High Fidelity, really, like talking about music, dicking around all day long, and being just completely subsumed by music, because we'd take in trades and all this stuff. It was like the dream, dude. And then I'd go hop in a van and go on tour, and that's what we did. But the only reason I'm bringing this up is to your point about like, finding new bands. Back then, dude, I would literally walk around. I'd go through my used section and I'd pull out, Epitaph. Even if it was a band I hadn't checked out yet, I'd be like, all right, cool, they're on Epitaph. Fat, same thing. And only once in a while would I really be disappointed with what I heard. And then, that branched out to other labels and stuff. And like, you start kind of realizing, oh, there's East Coast punk labels besides Discord and Victory. And I'm going to go check these bands out or whatever. And then what I found, dude, is nowadays it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. But the existence of streaming services, all right, it broke down a gate. So there's like many levels of gatekeeping that streaming and, Napster broke down back in the day, that just got obliterated. And that's a good thing in the sense of you don't need anymore to have a A&R guy or a record label suit go ahead and give you the green light in order for your music to be possibly discovered by anyone outside of your hometown.
Yeah.
That's the good thing. The bad thing is, because of that, it's overwhelmingly saturated with a lot of shitty music, dude. Now, I'm not... to my taste, I don't begrudge anyone sits down and writes a song, is in a band. I don't care what the genre is. I give them their props. But if I either like it or I don't, most of it I don't. A lot of it I don't like. And so, like for me, when I first got on Spotify and all this stuff, and this is before I started doing the Bridge the Gap thing again, music, like actually doing it, I was like overwhelmed, dude. I was like, I'm just listening to the same bands. I'm just going to keep it with the same bands that I like. Seriously, dude, right now, I'm like you, James. I'm starting to build a little vinyl collection for the first time. I've never really got into collecting. I started collecting, and so I'm expanding things. But if you looked at my record collection, dude, honestly, it's like 95% hit rate of the same shit I was listening to when I was 16 years old. And maybe that's probably pretty. Yeah, dude, that's probably how most people are, dude. Like the 60s, you know, the boomers that are now, you know, that's what they listen to too, is Cream and, you know, Joplin and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I was reading a random article on Cracked. You know, you guys know Cracked. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So they had a thing. I can't remember what the article's name. It was like things that there were studies for you didn't know there were studies for, or something like that. They were talking about, in particular, the fact that every generation has an issue with the generation before it, right? And the generation before it has an issue with the generation directly after it.
Yeah.
Apparently, we as human beings have a finite ability to continue to adapt and accept new things. As you age, like all right, so there have been studies, like you can prove that popular music, for example, pop music, actually is homogenized garbage. There's an algorithm that goes into making a pop song.
Oh, dude, it's
bad. But the thing is, if you stop and listen, like if you listen to fucking Gaga's Poker Face next to whatever has come out recently, right? Her version is a little bit better than whatever has come out recently, because they also have changed the way they mix everything. Like all the music is designed to be as loud as possible on small speakers, with the music being as noticeable as possible on a small speaker, because phones, computers, Bluetooth speakers, right? It is really bizarre that we've gotten to a point, like we are actually at a point in human history where it's not just an inability to adapt to new things. Things actually do suck more now.
Oh, dude,
than they used to.
Bro. So I'm, as a dad, you know, I have a 21-year-old son, an 18-year-old son, and a soon-to-be 16-year-old son. And I was just like, the whole time they were little boys and stuff, like I can't wait till you guys grow up a little bit and discover music so that we can like nerd out on music together. And then finally they did. And so I'm like, Rad, what do you guys listen to? You know, trying to like get on their level. Cause like I was the kid, dude, that would like, if my stepdad was in my face, I'd go in my room, slam the door and turn on, you know, Rage Against the Machine. F you. I won't do what you tell me. Like, so like, I was like, yeah, dude, let's hear what you guys are digging and stuff. And let me tell you what it was. And is emo rap, dude. Lil Peep, XXX Suicide Boys, this kind of stuff, right? And I'm giving it an honest effort to try and like get it and figure it out and see what it is. Because honestly, what they're listening to is the kind of stuff that if we were teenagers now, that's what we'd be listening. That's the counterculture, underground, anti-authority, anti-establishment genre right now. That's like popular, but not quite like stadium popular. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can't get there, dude. I've tried. I've like listened to the artists they're into more than it's probably unhealthy how much I've tried to get into it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't see it, dude. I don't get it. I just have to say, like you were talking about, dude, I just like charge it to the game. We're not speaking the same language here, and that's cool. You know, you're modern, I'm fucking 90s old guy, whatever. But there's something to it. It doesn't sound good though. I got to tell you guys, it's not good music. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's not. It's repetitive garbage bass lines with a single hook over the top of it.
It's unbelievably shallow topic matter.
Oh
like,
man, it's
ridiculous.
Well, that's right. All right, so like just a second ago, I yelled out Little Yachty. Like this is a dude who literally took the world by fucking storm in the 2010s, right? He was fucking huge, and he is goddamn awful. What's fucked up though is that as for the genre, the style, there were many other contemporaries that were incredible. You could have taken fucking Lupe Fiasco and put him in Yacht's place, and Jesus, that dude, fucking, he can lay it down. It's a true Cold 16. It's a beautiful fucking bar that he is dropping on top of good and interesting music, even if it is nothing but a bunch of sampled shit dropped together with a different beat thrown behind it with a Roland 8 or a TR-808. it's still good. It required talent, it required skill. The more that it goes on, though, the more access. And on the one hand, this is a double-edged sword. It's great that standard with any computer you pick up nowadays, it's going to come with some variety of GarageBand and or Cakewalk or something where you can just mix beats. You can fucking play anything you can imagine with a keyboard, and you can honestly do something great with it if you know how. That's cool, but there's a lot of people that never should have had access to that type of material doing exactly that and fucking blowing up because, man, they're new. You haven't heard them.
Well, because think about this. In our day, all right, now I'm sounding like an old guy, but like even in this, okay, I'll start from the rock and roll period on, dude, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. All right. If you were going to get whatever music you had in front of any kind of listening audience, there had to be literally countless hours of time on task getting you to that point, from learning your instrument to forming a band, to learning how to be a cohesive band, to learning how to write songs, to having the balls to set up shows and perform, to then taking that on the road, to then hopefully like getting some interest in your band. Think of all of the work it took just to get to that point. Now, to your point, bro, they go like this. I've got a laptop. I've got a program. I'm going to figure out how to make an 808. And then I'm going to spit some lyrics about suicide and Xanax. And then I'm going to upload that shit to SoundCloud and Spotify and let the chips fall. And there's immediate audience. But the problem is, because there's not, and this is maybe painting too broad of strokes, because there are actually some very talented artists in that realm. And I don't want to take anything away from them, but it's so easy to make that music that the dues that you have to pay to get there, it's not about, hey, I paid my dues, give me my opportunity. It's about the dues you paid actually made you a interesting artist or player. And so when the music actually gets in front of someone, people they go, whoa, that's interesting to me. As opposed to, here's a software program that I learned by watching YouTube for 3 hours this morning. And I figured out how to make a beat. And then I just bought a freaking USB mic and spit some flow into it and figured out how to put some weird reverb and like effects on it. Here you go.
It is a different environment now. It's a new world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, like I said, double-edged sword. It's not a horrible thing. It does open up the entire world to people who otherwise would not have the chance, who maybe have something to say, who are probably
exactly
to say, you know what, random name drops or some fucking horrorcore shit.
Yeah.
SOD.
Dude, and that's the thing. It's a similar principle to what I was talking about with, you know, the proliferation of music on Spotify is you can get lost in it. That's the downside, is like there's so much, and the quality, because there is no real qualification process to get there, the quality on a general level is lesser than it was even 15 years ago. But that's the downside. The upside is genuine talented bands and artists that wouldn't have been able to necessarily get through the gatekeeping of the old days. They get immediate access, and they get, all it took was, you know, getting it shared to the right Facebook group, and then boom, right? Then it's a thing. Yeah. So you're right. It's, you know, just like anything, there's give, there's take, you know, there's trade-offs. That's just the world we live in now, though.
Which actually wraps this whole thing back to the fact that we may actually be the only generation that can legitimately say that things have gotten worse, but things have gotten better too, and at least we recognize that.
Yeah. Yeah, point to where it is better.
We should all congratulate ourselves. Just do that. There you go.
But that brings us to the end of our conversation here, I think.
Yeah.
We talked about quite a bit of ground.
Yeah,
talked about meeting your heroes, how you should. I say meet.
Yes.
You may get let down, you may not, but I guarantee you 90% of the time you won't.
And you still get to say you met your hero.
That's the big one. Bragging rights.
Exactly. So, Chad, thanks for joining us, man. Once again, go ahead and tell people where they can find you guys.
Yeah, thanks again, guys. I had a lot of fun talking and just meandering around our conversation. It was really fun. just follow Bridge the Gap on Instagram, Facebook, and if you're on Spotify, follow us because we have some really cool stuff happening. We're going back to the studio in February, but we have a couple little surprises we're going to be dropping here before the end of the year. So just follow.
You guys are also, if anybody doesn't have access to Spotify, you can check them out on YouTube. They are there.
Oh yeah, YouTube, Apple. I mean, it's on all the
Music.
services.
Yeah.
Streaming service. Type it in and find out.
Yeah.
Exactly. Bridge of the Gap. That's who you're looking for. And bridgeofthegapmerch.com.
You got it. Yep. Thank you, bro.
Yeah, no problem, man. I know that's where you guys make most of your money right there. So let's get you some money. For sure. Again, thanks for joining us, man. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah. Anytime, guys. Appreciate you. So thanks for the time.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Jason, Craig,